The coffin has opened, and Daniel Levy seems finally ready to get out of it and slap some deals on the table. I guess it must be the last 5 days of the transfer window, or as Daniel no doubt calls it, in the east wing of his Enfield mansion, Levy time. I'll be discussing the endless reports that came out yesterday from reputable journalists about Tottenham now being ready, apparently, to go for a big-name striker, as well as rumours of us being gazumped for Tyler Dibling and the transfer merry-go-round getting in full swing with the dominoes starting to fall now that Villa have got some big, grotty Saudi Arabian money in. All this and more on today's edition of Daily Premier League Transfer News with me, Barnaby Slater. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do give this video a like if you're on YouTube and press that subscribe button. I'm getting closer and closer to 15,000 subscribers, guys. I'm loving this community we're building up. So if you are not a subscriber so far and you like transfer news, always, of course, starting with my team, Tottenham Hotspur, press that subscribe button. But let's get straight into it. And as I'm sure any Spurs fans here are aware, yesterday seemed like a huge day. Tottenham slapping bids in left, right and centre. Before I go out telling you about some of this interest and some of these reports, I want to caveat it by saying I feel like we've been here before. When it gets to the end of the transfer window, Spurs are in a panic. The fans are getting livid. Protests are getting bigger. And suddenly reports come out of the club through reputable journalists that Tottenham are interested in some of the most exciting talent around. But answer me this in the comments, Spurs fans. How often do these rumours actually come true? How often does it happen where we get linked with a big name player at a big name club who's looking to leave and Tottenham actually come through and get the deal done? I would argue not very often, and that is my fear. My fear is that some of these reports, and I'll go into them in a second, of us being linked with this big name striker at a huge club who wants to kind of start his career again somewhere else and really show his talent, the likelihood is that Tottenham are just kind of paying lip service to try and appease the fans, and then on the last day, on deadline day, we will get ourselves an Andy Booth on loan or a Fraser Campbell on loan. Remember that? Remember Fraser Campbell? Andy Booth is one that a lot of you won't remember because it was back in the late 90s. But what I'm talking about is just an inability for this club to follow through. I'm starting this video by saying that because what I desperately want is for the club to prove me wrong. I want us to come through with 2 amazing signings between now and Monday. So I'm hoping that by saying it, I'll be proven wrong and we can meme this clip up and we can say Barnaby was wrong and the club actually followed through with their interest in this big name player. And that player is Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich. Fabrizio Romano said Tottenham will be prepared to do something important for Matthias Tell. Reports from Bild in Germany. Tottenham are one of the clubs interested in Matthias Tell. Sammy Merkbell says we've joined the race to sign Matthias Tell. Firstly on loan apparently, but some reports suggesting that actually we're interested in a permanent deal. Plettigol in Germany says Tottenham are very interested in Matthias Tell and now in direct talks with his management. Matt Law said amidst interest from the club in Matthias Tell, it's worth noting that Spurs have a good relationship with Bayern Munich after recent dealings between the two clubs were fruitful. Talking about Harry Kane, of course. And I talked yesterday in my video, didn't I? Agent Kane, get your 15%, get into Matthias Tell's ear and say you can replace me properly in that forward line and work well with the likes of Dominic Solanke and Son Heung-min. The Bayern director, Max Erbel, said this: Matthias Tell wants to leave, so we'll assess all the options and decide what to do. I can understand him, Erbel said. And also, I don't know if you saw the social media clips, but after Bayern Munich's victory in the Champions League last night, lots of clips of Matthias Tell seemingly waving goodbye to the fans. So it does look like he wants to leave. However, of course, Tottenham not the only club interested. Arsenal apparently ready to make Bayern Munich an offer for Matthias Tell before the end of the transfer window. Although maybe they're wrapped up with trying to get Ollie Watkins, who they slapped a £60 million bid in for yesterday. Annoying Aston Villa on the day of their big Champions League game. The other club, amongst 7 apparently, but in London interested in Matthias Tell, Chelsea, who've been investigating a potential move for him all window. Chelsea looking to add to their already glittering forward line. And it looks like João Felix may be on the way out from Chelsea, so maybe they're looking to replace him. So, realistically, what are the chances if we're up against Arsenal and Chelsea? Well, rumours coming out from Matthias Tell's camp say that he's not actually interested in joining Chelsea because he feels like the competition there would be too strong. Now, that is the only thing really making me think, well, maybe one or two things, actually. Matthias Tell was someone that Tottenham were interested in getting as part of that Harry Kane deal when Kane left Spurs for Bayern Munich for that £100 million. So maybe that early interest has made Matthias Tell feel like Tottenham, have really invested in him and are really keen on him. And also then the second thing is that he will be pretty much guaranteed a place in the forward line at Spurs. Son Heung-min, obviously an amazing player, but he needs his minutes to be used sparingly. Mikey Moore, obviously young and raw, not ready to start every game. Brennan Johnson injured at the moment, but I would say more suited to being a player off the bench in the Premier League who could cause carnage off the bench. Dominic Solanke, I would say, when fit, a mainstay, but not fit at the moment. So Matthias Tell could come into Spurs and start every game pretty much straight away, and he can play across the forward line. And of course, it would suit our strategy of buying young, hungry, talented players. But let me know in the comments what you think, guys. Is this me just being pie in the sky? Is it me finding positivity where there's none to be found? Because realistically, if Manchester United and Chelsea and Arsenal are interested, and some reports did come out yesterday saying that Matthias Tell wants to join Manchester United. That was Paul O'Keefe saying that. However, Manchester United can apparently only bring someone in if they get rid of Garnacho and or Rashford. So like I mentioned in the opening, the dominoes starting to fall. Because deals are beginning to get done. But with Man United needing to get a lot of wages off their books, with Rashford on about £315,000 a week, and potentially needing to get an academy product sold so they can have the money to buy someone in, and that would be Garnacho, then maybe Tottenham and their absolute need for someone enables the likes of Scott Munn and Johan Lange to get into the ears of Matthias Tell's people and say, we actually properly want you. We're not waiting to get rid of someone else to try and squeeze you through the door. We properly want you. We want you to go straight into the side. We want you to be a main man in our project. But, like I said, that could just be me trying to find positivity where there is none. But anyway, genuinely lots of reports about Matthias Tell yesterday. Spurs clearly are interested in the player. But, as I said right at the top of this episode, is this just going to prove another example of Tottenham paying lip service to wanting a talented player but not being able to get him over the line, like Fernando Morientes back in the day, like Paulo Dybala, like Pistone, just so many to mention from recent years. So who knows? Another bit of interesting transfer talk coming out yesterday. Tottenham opened talks with Brentford for Johan Wissa as a concrete option and target. Now, he is a player who is proven in the Premier League, who can do it and can also play across the forward line. But for me, Brentford, why are they going to sell him now? I cannot see, unless a bid comes in that is absolutely miles over their valuation, and it won't be because we're talking about Daniel Levy, then why would Johan Wissa come to Tottenham from Brentford this January? I hope to be proven wrong. I like him. We need that kind of energy. He always causes Tottenham's problems, causes us problems, running into the channels, pressing, absolute energy. And he's a player I'd love to bring in, but I cannot see Thomas Frank letting him go. Now, in a rumour that I would suggest is somewhere more akin to the what I was talking about at the top of the show, the likes of Fraser Campbell, Andy Booth, or much more recently, Arnaut Danjuma, who came in. And some Spurs fans got excited by him, but I remember watching him previously in their Europa League run at, where was he? At Villarreal, was it? Anyway, whichever Spanish club he was in. I remember him being quick, but just thinking, oof, he's not a great player. And then he came to Spurs on loan in one of those classic kind of late deadline moves where Tottenham needed a player in, so they got a poor loan signing in. And I feel like this next rumour is a bit more similar to that, which is that in the last few hours yesterday, according to reports in Italy, indirect contacts were made between Spurs and AC Milan for Noah Okafor. Spurs looking for a winger and are targeting, as I mentioned, Matthias Tell, but the competition is very high and Okafor has been proposed as an alternative solution. I've looked into Okafor's past and it doesn't excite me. Let's just put it that way. Feel free to get in the comments, guys, and let me know that actually Okafor would be an exciting signing. But for me, not really doing it for me. And also, frankly, we're talking in AC Milan as a club who paid 20 odd million, or what was it, maybe it was only 12 million with some add-ons, but for Emerson Royal. So they don't strike me as a club who really know about making good signings. And maybe that's why Okafor, who only joined relatively recently, they're willing to let go. Okay, according to Sammy Merkbell, Tottenham do have a concrete interest in Southampton's teenager Tyler Dibling and would be open to signing the youngster this month. However, according to reports in your very reputable Sun newspaper, Also interested are German clubs Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. And therefore, if you were Tyler Dibling, and I'm just putting myself in his shoes, I would be looking at some of those English players who've gone over to the likes of Bayern Munich. Who've gone over to Germany, and more like Borussia Dortmund, actually, when you look at Jamie Gittins and you look at Jadon Sancho. And I'd think, maybe that's a good next step in my career in terms of where I will get to play every single week. But Tottenham are pushing hard to try and get Dibling through the door. And as I mentioned in my video, I think yesterday or the day before, even rumoured to be interested in potentially buying him and then loaning him back to Southampton, which for me would be, good for the long term. But in terms of what we need now, that would not help us at all. Ange Postecoglou did a press conference yesterday. He was asked about transfers. He said, I would be disingenuous if I said right now anything other than nothing is imminent. But that doesn't mean opportunities aren't being explored. So he's towing the party line still. Langer, Munn, trying to make things happen, but things are not imminently happening. I thought from the little I've seen of Postecoglou's press conference yesterday, he was in quite bullish mood. I do get the sense that he is just going to be given this time by the club to get the players back. And there is some great news. Vicario, Richarlison, Van der Ven and Basuma were all in first team training yesterday before tonight's Elfsborg game. Postecoglou said this: Mickey is good. He's good to go. We'll try to get him some match minutes against Elfsborg. He's had a good week, 10 days with the team. Madders has a calf strain, will be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Pape is okay, still a bit of a niggle, but he's okay and available, and so is Basuma. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. I don't want Van der Ven to be brought back too early and get re-injured. So I'd be more tempted to not play him in any minutes tonight and maybe give him 10 or 15 against Brentford at the weekend and then have him properly ready for Liverpool. But I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I being too pragmatic, too careful? But he's been re-injured quickly so many times that I just want him to be fit for that Liverpool game. Some bad news is that Andrew was asked about Christian Romero. He said QT is a bit of a slow burner, and we're mindful his injury is a bit different. Not on the horizon at the moment in terms of this weekend. So I would argue that although for the last month or two, all the talk has been Romero being available for early February and maybe that semi-final second leg next week, that is going to be a difficult one to see him return for that game. I think that's looking unlikely, and that is not great news for that Liverpool game. Dejan Kulusevski came out and gave a kind of very captain, leader, legend-esque press conference yesterday, and he was very strong in his defence of Ange Postecoglou. He said this: we believe in him. I really want to play the football he wants because I love it, and I believe he's the right man. He was asked about Spurs' struggles. He said, you can look at the manager, you can look at the players, but it's bigger than that. A shot across the bows from Dejan Kulusevski aimed towards Daniel Levy, towards the board, towards an inability or a lack of desire to help the players during this January. And that is clearly what the fans are most frustrated about at the moment, which is, it's all well and good you having this transfer strategy of wanting to buy young, exciting players whose value will grow and who will grow with the club. But they need help this January. They needed help at the beginning of January, and they haven't been able to get players through the door, and that is what is angering fans. And I can understand it. I can totally understand it. I feel it as well. But I have to caveat with it's not always as simple as that. It's clubs saying if you want to buy a player early January, then you're going to have to pay £20 million more. And yes, of course, Daniel Levy is the last chairman who's going to pay £20 million more. But £20 million in the days of PSR and everything is a lot of money. I'm speculating. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. But obviously there is nuance to it. Postecoglou was asked during his press conference whether he feels he's been backed this month by the Spurs board. He said, everyone is trying their utmost. I don't think anyone is working against me. I don't think anyone wants me to fail. I think everyone genuinely at this football club, this kind of situation is a tough gig for a manager. You can be very isolated. You can be very vulnerable. I don't feel that. The people I work with are doing their utmost to try and help guide me through this. To help me guide us through this, I don't feel like anyone is blocking that. From my perspective, my focus is firmly on the things I can control, which is making sure I prepare a team for a really big game tomorrow. It is a huge game tonight, Elfsborg at home. A win will guarantee us top 8 in the Europa League, which would mean we don't have to play the kind of, the playoff of death, two-legged playoff in, I guess it's next month to get us through to the last 16. It would put us straight through to the last 16, and it would probably get us a better draw in that last 16. So we need it. We need a victory tonight. But do I feel confident that we're going to easily get a victory against Elfsborg? No, I'll be honest, I don't, because I've seen us against Leicester. I saw us away at Everton in that first half when we were 3-0 down. It's going to be Elfsborg's, a lot of those players and the club's one of their biggest games ever. They're going to come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, lauded as one of the best stadiums in the world. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to love it. And they're going to play without fear. And their season hasn't been on recently, so they're going to have absolutely fresh legs. Meanwhile, Tottenham, with only kind of 10 fit players, you know that even if they make a decent start, Elfsborg will know that going into the second half of that game, Spurs will get leggy and they will get further and further back, deeper and deeper, and Elfsborg will make chances. And we've just got to hope that Tottenham can find a way to kind of stutter over the line against them like we did against Hoffenheim last week. But I do not feel confident at all that we're going to make this easy for ourselves. And in fact, where I think a lot of fans, similar to before the Leicester game, and a lot of pundits are thinking, oh, Tottenham will have enough for this, I'm not so sure. I hate to say it, I hate to sound negative, but I'm not so sure. I think it's going to be very difficult. And I think when you're coming against players who have incredibly high motivation and incredibly fresh legs, that can make up a 15-20% difference. And I think it's going to be a big struggle. But let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. And I will be doing a watch along for it on Chris Cowlin's channel. So go over to @Chris Cowlin on YouTube tonight during the game for my live watch along. Okay, guys, before I get into some other more wide-ranging Premier League transfer news, once again, thank you so much for your support. Please do press like on this video on YouTube if you haven't already. The more likes we get, the more Spurs fans and Premier League fans get to see these transfer videos. Also, if you're not already a subscriber to my channel, thank you so much for watching. Getting close to 15,000 subscribers now, guys. Please do press that subscribe button. Help me get up there. It's a really lovely, engaged community. Get so much chat every day in the comments, guys. Really appreciating your support. And finally, if you want to help me make these daily videos for you, for only £1 a month, guys, you can become a member on YouTube or on Patreon. All the details of how are in the description box below. I really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you so, so much. Okay, like I said, other Premier League transfer talk, and things are starting to hot up. The transfer merry-go-round is happening. The dominoes are starting to fall. And yesterday, Aston Villa had huge bids for both of their strikers. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, Arsenal bid £60 million for Ollie Watkins. That came a little bit out of the blue, but Ollie Watkins was an Arsenal fan as a boy. So it might well excite him, the thought of becoming the number 9 striker that they have been so hoping for. But Aston Villa rejected that £60 million bid, and I think the reason they were able to do that and be so strong is because John Duran is going to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia for €77 million, fixed fee plus add-ons. The medical is booked for tomorrow, and then he'll travel to Saudi Arabia. I mean, I have to say, maybe I'm backward, but if you're John Duran and you're going to Saudi Arabia at this point in your career, that is completely mental. He's obviously a talented boy. He's obviously frustrated that he's not starting that many games for Aston Villa. Remember back in the summer he wanted to go to West Ham. But he's obviously just taken a look at the money that's being offered to him. Tax-free, of course, in Saudi, and thought, yeah, I'll do this for a couple of years and then I'll come back to Europe after that. But I guess that allowed Aston Villa to turn down the £60 million for Ollie Watkins. Arsenal are expected to make a second attempt to sign the 29-year-old Aston Villa and England striker. But he's 29, £60 million or more if they go up to 70. That is a hard bid to turn down for a 29-year-old. But imagine if Aston Villa were to accept both these bids. Imagine if Duran was to go and Watkins were to go before the end of the transfer window. I know Villa are interested in João Felix from Chelsea, but he's not a number 9. He's not going to do the job for them. So I'm pretty positive, surely, that Villa are going to keep hold of Ollie Watkins. And I doubt Ollie Watkins is the kind of person who's going to kick up a stink and refuse to play for them. Meanwhile, Chelsea keep working on outgoings. They're desperate to free up some space in their squad. So Axel Disasi, loan proposal with fee and salary coverage to Aston Villa, apparently. West Ham have also submitted an official bid for US men's national team player Ricardo Pepi. Loan, 25 million package, loan with obligation to buy. PSV Eindhoven have rejected that proposal initially, but West Ham are expected to come back with a bigger offer. It felt yesterday like a big day when it came to the transfers and the things starting to fall. And this is what happens always towards the end of the window. Everyone feels like it's been a very quiet window. Everyone has a go at their chairman. And then in the last few days, when one falls, the others start to follow. And I think Tottenham will get mixed up in this. as money comes in and starts to swill around other clubs, and that is big money that has come into Aston Villa, by the way. Be interesting to see how much of that they have to spend, because obviously last summer they had to sell Douglas Luiz because of profit and sustainability rules. And Aston Villa have been massively overspending because they came up and they were wanting to challenge. So maybe they do have to make at least one or two sales, and maybe that's why the Watkins deal might interest them as well, but I cannot see them both going. But yeah, as the transfer dominoes start to fall, maybe that is when Tottenham's best chances of getting a striker and maybe even a defender through the door will be. Let's see what happens. Guys, thanks again for your support. Please do press the like button if you haven't already. Please do subscribe to the channel. Let's get me up to 15,000, guys. Really appreciate your support. And also, you can find me on the podcast platforms every day. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get them, just type in the Spurred On podcast and give me a subscribe and a follow and a rating there. I really appreciate your support, guys. Enjoy your Thursday. Thanks again. Cheers.